Every morning, your mind wakes up before your body does. If you do not guide it, it will run toward worry, fear, and noise. The Stoics believe the morning is the most important moment of the day. What you do in the first moments shapes everything that follows. These are 5 Stoic rules to practice every morning. They are simple. They are quiet. But if you truly do them, they will discipline your mind. When you wake up, the day is already formed. It does not ask for your permission. It does not wait for your plans. It arrives with its own events, its own people, its own problems. To accept the day as it comes means to stop fighting this truth. Many people wake up already arguing with life. They think, this should not happen, or today must go my way. This way of thinking creates tension before the day even begins. Acceptance is not weakness. It is clarity. To accept the day is to understand that comfort is never promised. Difficulty is not a mistake. Delays, loss, rude words, and sudden change are all part of life's design. When you expect a perfect day, every problem feels like an attack. When you expect challenge, nothing feels personal. The Stoic mind prepares for reality, not fantasy. This preparation removes shock. Shock is what breaks people, not hardship itself. Acceptance begins in the mind. When something goes wrong, the event itself is neutral. It has no meaning until your mind gives it one. You can label it as a disaster, or you can label it as a test. The event does not change, but your suffering does. Accepting the day means choosing not to add anger, fear, or panic to what already exists. Pain may still be there, but unnecessary suffering is removed. This rule does not mean doing nothing. It means acting without complaint. You still solve problems. You still speak up when needed. You still work and improve. But you do it without resentment. Complaining does not fix the day. It only steals energy from the present moment. Acceptance allows you to move forward with a steady mind, instead of dragging emotional weight behind you. Many people confuse acceptance with giving up. They believe if they accept something, they agree with it. This is false. Acceptance simply means you see reality clearly. You cannot change what you refuse to see. A calm mind sees more options than an angry one. By accepting the day as it is, you place yourself in a position of strength. You stop reacting blindly and start responding wisely. Each morning is a chance to practice this rule. Before the world speaks to you, speak to yourself. Remind yourself that the day may test your patience. Someone may misunderstand you. Plans may fail. Your body may feel tired. These are not reasons to lose control. They are reasons to use discipline. When the test arrives, it will feel familiar instead of overwhelming. Acceptance also teaches humility. It reminds you that you are not the center of everything. Life does not move around your desires. This understanding removes frustration. You stop demanding that life be easy and start training yourself to be strong. Strength grows when resistance to reality ends. When you accept the day, you free your attention. You stop replaying what should have happened. You stop worrying about what might happen. Your focus stays on what is happening now. This presence improves every action you take. You speak with more care. You listen better. You act with purpose instead of impulse. There will be moments when acceptance feels hard. Loss, pain, and disappointment can shake the mind. In those moments, acceptance does not mean you feel nothing. It means you do not let emotion control your behavior. You allow the feeling to exist without letting it decide your actions. This is discipline. This is inner order. To accept the day as it comes is to walk with life instead of against it. It is to meet each moment without fear or false hope. It is to understand that peace does not come from controlling the world, but from mastering your response to it. From the moment you wake up, your mind begins to reach outward. It thinks about people, events, outcomes, and problems that are not yet here. This habit drains energy before the day even starts. To control only what is yours means to pull the mind back to what truly belongs to you. Many people suffer not because of what happens, but because they try to manage what was never in their hands. Your thoughts are yours. Your choices are yours. Your effort is yours. Everything else moves on its own path. Other people's opinions, moods, actions, and decisions are outside your control. Weather, luck, delays, and accidents are outside your control. When you forget this, you feel frustrated and powerless. When you remember it, you feel grounded and clear. Trying to control what is not yours creates constant tension. You replay conversations in your head, wishing others had spoken differently. You worry about outcomes that may never happen. You become angry when people do not act the way you want. This is like holding water in your hands and blaming the water for slipping away. The Stoic approach is to release what cannot be held and strengthen what can. Control begins with attention. Where you place your attention decides your inner state. If your attention stays on external things, your peace depends on chance. If your attention stays on your own actions, your peace becomes stable. You cannot decide how others treat you, but you can decide how you respond. You cannot decide if something fails, but you can decide how honestly you try. This rule requires discipline because the mind resists it. The mind wants certainty. It wants guarantees. It wants to know how everything will turn out. Life does not work this way. When the mind accepts this, it becomes lighter. You stop demanding control over the future and focus on doing your part well in the present. Each morning, this practice starts with a simple question: what is in my control right now? The answer is never the result. The answer is the effort, the attitude, the intention. You can choose to speak calmly. You can choose to work with care. You can choose to act fairly. These choices are always available, no matter the situation. When something goes wrong, the habit of blaming appears. The Stoic mind interrupts this habit. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" it asks, "What is the right action now?" This shift changes everything. It turns obstacles into training. It turns frustration into focus. It removes the feeling of being a victim of events. Controlling what is yours also means taking responsibility. You do not blame others for your reactions. If you lose your temper, that belongs to you. If you waste time, that belongs to you. This is not meant to create guilt. It is meant to create freedom. Responsibility gives power back to the individual. Blame gives it away. When you stop trying to control others, relationships improve. You listen more. You judge less. You understand that people act according to their own nature and experience. Expecting them to think and behave exactly like you is unrealistic. Acceptance of this fact reduces anger and disappointment. This rule also protects you from fear. Fear grows when you imagine losing control, but if you know that your character remains in your hands, fear loses its grip. Even in failure, even in loss, your values remain untouched unless you abandon them yourself. To control only what is yours is to live with inner order. It is to build a stable center that does not collapse when the world changes. The day becomes manageable because your focus stays where your power truly is. Letting go of what you cannot change is one of the hardest disciplines of the mind. The mind naturally wants to fix, correct, and undo. It returns again and again to the past, replaying moments, wishing for different words, different choices, different outcomes. This habit creates silent suffering. The past no longer exists, yet the mind keeps it alive. Letting go means recognizing that what has happened is outside your reach, no matter how strongly you feel about it. There are many things you cannot change: what people have done, what they think, what has already occurred, and many outcomes that are no longer in motion. Holding on to these things does not protect you. It weakens you. It consumes energy that could be used for growth and action. The Stoic approach is not to erase memory, but to release attachment. Memory teaches. Attachment traps. When you resist what cannot be changed, you argue with reality. Reality does not argue back. It simply continues. This inner argument creates tension, bitterness, and exhaustion. Letting go is not pretending you do not care. It is accepting that caring does not give you control. You can acknowledge pain without feeding it. You can recognize loss without reliving it every day. The mind often confuses letting go with forgetting. Forgetting is not required. Awareness is enough. You see the event clearly, you understand it, and then you stop carrying it as a burden. Just as you would not carry a broken tool after it has lost its use, you do not carry thoughts that no longer serve action or wisdom. Each morning, the Stoic practice is to notice what is weighing on the mind. Worries about past mistakes, regrets, and imagined conversations often appear first. The discipline is to name them and then release them. Ask yourself whether these thoughts change anything now. If the answer is no, they are distractions. Attention should be placed only where action is possible. Letting go also applies to expectations. You may expect fairness, appreciation, or recognition. When these do not arrive, frustration grows. These expectations are often silent demands placed on the world. Releasing them does not make you passive. It makes you flexible. You act well without needing a specific response in return. This rule strengthens emotional resilience. When you stop holding on to what you cannot change, emotions pass more quickly. Anger fades faster. Sadness becomes lighter. The mind regains balance. You do not become cold or detached. You become steady. You feel without being controlled by feeling. There is freedom in this practice. When you let go, you reclaim the present moment. The present is the only place where choice exists. The past is fixed. The future is uncertain. Only now offers the chance to act with reason. By releasing what cannot be changed, you create space for clarity. Letting go requires repetition. The same thoughts may return many times. Each time the practice is the same. You notice them. You do not fight them. You do not follow them. You allow them to pass. Over time, the mind learns that not every thought deserves attention. This discipline also applies to people. You cannot force understanding. You cannot force kindness. You cannot force loyalty. When you try, you create conflict. Letting go means allowing others to be as they are. This does not mean accepting harm. It means accepting reality before choosing a response. When loss occurs, letting go does not remove grief. It prevents grief from becoming bitterness. You honor what was, without demanding that it still be. You accept change as a law of life, not a personal attack. To let go of what you cannot change is to stop wasting strength on immovable things. It is to move forward without dragging the weight of yesterday. It is to live with a mind that is free enough to act well in the moment, that exists now. Choosing calm over reaction is a daily discipline, not a natural habit. The first impulse of the mind is to react. Something unexpected happens, and emotion rises before reason has time to speak. Anger, fear, impatience, and pride all push for immediate expression. This reaction feels powerful, but it is weakness disguised as strength. Calm is not the absence of emotion. It is the ability to pause before emotion takes control. Reaction hands control to the outside world. A single word from another person can ruin your mood. A small delay can trigger frustration. A minor mistake can cause shame. When this happens, your inner state depends on external events. Calm reverses this relationship. Instead of the world controlling you, you control your response to the world. The Stoic mind understands that most harm does not come from events, but from judgments made too quickly. When you react without thought, you add meaning that may not be true. You assume intention where there may be none. You imagine danger where there may be inconvenience. Calm creates space between the event and the judgment. In that space, clarity appears. Choosing calm does not mean suppressing emotion. Suppression stores pressure and eventually leads to explosion. Calm means allowing the emotion to exist without obeying it. You notice the heat of anger or the tightness of fear, but you do not act from it. You let reason decide the next step. This practice strengthens self-command. Every morning offers a chance to prepare for this. You remind yourself that challenges will appear. Someone may test your patience. Something may not go your way. By expecting these moments, you reduce their power. Surprise fuels reaction. Preparation builds calm. When insulted, the reactive mind rushes to defend. The calm mind pauses and asks whether the words deserve attention. Often they do not. Silence becomes a form of strength. Not every comment requires a reply. Not every provocation requires engagement. Calm preserves dignity. Choosing calm also protects decision-making. Emotional reactions narrow vision. You see only one path, often the worst one. Calm widens perspective. You consider consequences. You see alternatives. You choose actions that align with your values rather than your mood. This discipline applies not only to anger, but also to excitement. Acting out of uncontrolled desire leads to regret, as often as acting out of rage. Calm balances both extremes. It keeps pleasure from becoming excess and ambition from becoming obsession. Many people believe that reacting quickly shows confidence. In truth, it often shows insecurity. A calm response signals inner stability. It shows that your sense of self does not depend on winning every moment. This quiet confidence commands respect without demanding it. Choosing calm does not make you passive. There are times to act firmly, to set boundaries, to say no. Calm action is clear and direct, not aggressive. It aims to solve, not to dominate. It carries strength without noise. This practice takes effort. The mind is trained by repetition. Each time you choose calm instead of reaction, you weaken the old habit and strengthen a new one. You may fail many times. Failure is part of training. What matters is returning to the practice. Calm also improves how you see others. When you are not reacting, you observe more accurately. You notice fear behind anger, confusion behind harsh words. This understanding reduces resentment. You stop taking everything personally. In difficult moments, calm becomes a refuge. It reminds you that no event can force you to abandon reason. Even when you cannot control the situation, you can control your inner order. This inner order becomes a steady guide through uncertainty. Choosing calm over reaction is choosing mastery over impulse. It is choosing long-term strength over short-term release. It is choosing to live according to reason, instead of being pulled in every direction by emotion. Practicing simplicity and silence is a way of clearing the mind so it can see what matters. The world pushes noise from every direction. Voices, opinions, demands, and distractions compete for attention from the moment you wake up. When the mind accepts all of this without question, it becomes restless and scattered. Simplicity is the act of removing what is unnecessary. Silence is the space that allows understanding to grow. The Stoic mind values what is useful over what is excessive. Many thoughts, words, and actions add nothing to a good life. They only consume time and energy. Simplicity begins by noticing how much of the day is spent reacting to things that do not improve character or judgment. When you reduce this clutter, the mind becomes lighter and more focused. Silence is not only the absence of sound, it is the absence of mental noise. A person can be surrounded by quiet and still be overwhelmed inside. Silence is trained by limiting useless speech, endless explanation, and constant opinion. Speaking less creates room for listening. Listening creates room for learning. When you speak less, your words gain weight. You stop explaining yourself to those who are not listening. You stop defending your choices to those who do not matter. You stop filling space out of discomfort. This restraint builds dignity. It also protects you from regret, because many mistakes are made through unnecessary speech. Simplicity also applies to desires. The more you want, the more dependent you become on chance. Wanting less does not mean lacking ambition. It means choosing goals that strengthen the mind instead of feeding endless hunger. A simple desire is easier to manage. A crowded desire list creates constant dissatisfaction. The Stoic approach is to ask whether something is truly needed. Many possessions, commitments, and habits are carried out of habit, not purpose. They fill time without adding value. Removing them creates freedom. Freedom is not having everything, but not being owned by what you have. Silence allows thoughts to settle. When the mind is always entertained, it never reflects. Reflection is necessary for growth. In silence, you notice patterns in your behavior. You recognize where you act out of fear or pride. This awareness is the foundation of self-discipline. Practicing silence also strengthens patience. You learn to wait before responding. You allow situations to unfold before judging them. This reduces misunderstanding and conflict. Many problems solve themselves when given time. Silence gives time its chance to work. Simplicity improves action. When the mind is not divided among many concerns, it acts with clarity. You do fewer things, but you do them well. You stop rushing. You stop multitasking. Attention becomes focused, and focused attention improves results. This practice requires resisting the urge to constantly express and consume. The mind often seeks distraction to avoid discomfort. Silence brings you face to face with yourself. This can feel uncomfortable at first. Over time, it becomes grounding. You begin to trust your own judgment instead of searching for constant validation. Simplicity and silence also protect inner peace. When you reduce exposure to unnecessary conflict and comparison, envy and anger lose their fuel. You stop measuring yourself against others. You focus on living according to your own standards. Each day offers moments to practice this rule. You choose not to speak when words add no value. You choose not to engage in noise that weakens the mind. You choose to simplify plans, expectations, and reactions. Through simplicity, life becomes manageable. Through silence, the mind becomes clear. Together, they create space for reason, discipline, and calm to guide action instead of impulse and distraction. Acting with virtue instead of emotion is the foundation of inner discipline. Emotion is fast, loud, and demanding. It pushes for immediate release. Virtue is quiet, steady, and patient. It asks for reflection before action. When emotion leads, actions are often followed by regret. When virtue leads, actions remain stable even when feelings change. Emotion is a natural part of being human. It rises on its own, without permission. Anger, fear, desire, and pride appear quickly, especially under pressure. The mistake is not feeling them, but allowing them to decide behavior. Emotion sees only the moment. Virtue considers the whole path. Acting with virtue means choosing what is right even when it feels uncomfortable. The Stoic mind understands that feelings are temporary. They change like weather. If actions are based on emotion, behavior becomes inconsistent. One day calm, the next day reckless. Virtue provides a fixed direction. It does not depend on mood. It depends on principle. Honesty remains honesty whether you feel calm or angry. Patience remains patience whether you feel tired or confident. Each morning, this rule begins with intention. You remind yourself of the kind of person you aim to be, not how you want to feel, but how you want to act. Feelings cannot always be controlled. Actions can. This distinction gives power. You may feel anger, but you choose fairness. You may feel fear, but you choose courage. Emotion often exaggerates. It makes problems feel bigger than they are. It turns small insults into personal attacks. Virtue brings proportion. It places events in context. It asks whether reacting strongly serves any purpose. Often, it does not. Acting with virtue prevents unnecessary conflict and preserves self-respect. This discipline is tested most when emotions are strongest. When insulted, emotion demands retaliation. Virtue demands restraint. When praised, emotion demands pride. Virtue demands humility. When frustrated, emotion demands escape. Virtue demands perseverance. Each moment becomes a choice between impulse and character. Acting with virtue does not mean ignoring emotion. It means observing it without surrender. You acknowledge what you feel, then decide how to act. This pause is the space where discipline lives. Without this pause, reaction takes over. With it, reason has time to guide behavior. Virtue also protects relationships. Emotional reactions damage trust. Words spoken in anger leave lasting marks. Actions driven by jealousy or pride create distance. Virtuous actions build stability. They create consistency. Others learn what to expect from you regardless of circumstance. This rule also applies when no one is watching. Virtue is not performance. It is behavior chosen even when there is no reward. Emotion seeks approval or release. Virtue seeks alignment with values. Acting rightly without recognition strengthens integrity. Over time, this practice reshapes the mind. Emotional impulses lose authority. They still appear, but they no longer command. The mind becomes trained to ask, what is the right action? Instead of, what do I feel like doing? This question changes outcomes. Acting with virtue requires effort. It is easier to follow emotion. Emotion feels natural. Virtue feels demanding. But ease is not a measure of worth. Strength grows through resistance. Each time you act according to principle, instead of impulse, discipline deepens. This rule creates inner freedom. When actions are guided by virtue, external events lose power over your behavior. You are no longer pushed and pulled by circumstance. You remain steady across success and failure. To act with virtue instead of emotion is to place character above comfort. It is to choose long-term respect over short-term relief. It is to build a life guided by reason, consistency, and inner order, rather than passing feelings. Preparing for difficulty instead of comfort trains the mind to face reality without fear. Comfort is easy to desire because it promises relief and ease. Difficulty is avoided because it demands effort and endurance. Yet life does not follow comfort. It moves through challenge, change, and uncertainty. When the mind expects comfort, difficulty feels unfair. When the mind expects difficulty, comfort becomes a gift instead of a demand. The Stoic practice is to begin the day aware that obstacles may appear. This awareness is not pessimism. It is readiness. You remind yourself that plans may fail, people may disappoint, and effort may not be rewarded immediately. By expecting these possibilities, you reduce their power. What is expected does not shock. What is prepared for does not overwhelm. Comfort weakens discipline when it becomes the goal. When the mind seeks ease above all else, It avoids effort, delay, and discomfort. Growth slows, resilience fades. Difficulty, when faced willingly, strengthens endurance. It teaches patience. It sharpens judgment. It reveals character. Preparing for difficulty also reduces fear. Fear grows from imagining pain without preparation. When you mentally rehearse challenges, they lose mystery. You no longer ask whether you can endure hardship. You already know that you can. This confidence does not come from hope, but from readiness. The Stoic mind does not ask life to be gentle. It asks itself to be strong. This shift changes everything. You stop blaming circumstances for discomfort. You stop seeing challenges as punishments. You begin to see them as training. Each problem becomes a chance to practice calm, courage, and restraint. This rule also protects against disappointment. When you expect success to come easily, failure feels like a personal defeat. When you expect resistance, failure becomes information. You adjust. You continue. You do not collapse under unmet expectations. Preparing for difficulty means accepting effort as normal. Hard work, delay, and discomfort are not signs that something is wrong. They are signs that you are moving forward. When effort is expected, persistence becomes easier. You do not quit simply because something feels hard. This mindset improves discipline in small daily actions. You choose the harder task first. You resist shortcuts that weaken character. You accept temporary discomfort for long-term strength. These choices build confidence that cannot be taken away by circumstance. Difficulty also reveals what truly matters. When things are easy, values are untested. When things are hard, priorities become clear. Preparing for hardship ensures that when pressure arrives, you do not abandon your principles. You already decided who you are before the test appeared. Comfort makes the mind dependent. Difficulty makes it independent. A mind trained for challenge does not panic when routines break. It adapts. It remains steady even when familiar supports disappear. This adaptability is a form of freedom. Preparing for difficulty does not mean rejecting rest or joy. It means not being owned by them. You enjoy comfort without needing it. You rest without fearing effort. Balance comes from strength, not avoidance. Each morning offers a chance to remind yourself that the day may demand patience, courage, or endurance. By welcoming this possibility, you remove resistance. Resistance multiplies pain. Acceptance reduces it. When difficulty arrives, you meet it with readiness instead of complaint. You focus on what must be done rather than what you wish were different. This focus conserves energy and sharpens action. To prepare for difficulty instead of comfort is to align your expectations with reality. It is to build a mind that remains calm under pressure. It is to walk through life trained for challenge, rather than surprised by it. Remembering that time is limited brings clarity to the mind. Many people live as if tomorrow is guaranteed and endless. This belief leads to delay, distraction, and careless use of attention. When you remember that time is finite, every moment gains weight. This awareness is not meant to create fear. It is meant to create focus. The Stoic mind treats time as the most valuable possession. Money can return. Opportunities may appear again. Time only moves in one direction. Once a moment passes, it cannot be recovered. Forgetting this truth leads to wasted days and shallow concerns. Remembering it brings urgency without panic. Each morning, reminding yourself that the day will not repeat changes how you act. You become less willing to waste energy on arguments that do not matter. You become less interested in proving yourself to others. Trivial problems lose their power. What remains is the question of how to use the day well. Limited time sharpens priorities. You begin to see the difference between what is important and what is merely loud. You focus on actions that build character instead of chasing endless distractions. You stop postponing difficult but meaningful tasks. Delay becomes harder to justify when time is seen clearly. This awareness also changes how you treat others. Knowing that time is short reduces cruelty. You become more patient. You listen more carefully. You choose words with care. Anger feels wasteful when measured against the cost of lost moments. Remembering the limit of time also strengthens gratitude. Ordinary moments gain value. A quiet morning, honest work, a calm mind become enough. You stop waiting for perfect conditions to feel content. Contentment grows from presence, not from future promises. Many fears shrink under this perspective. Fear often comes from imagining long-term suffering or loss. When you focus on the present day instead of an imagined future, fear loses its grip. You deal with what is in front of you, not with stories about what might happen years from now. This rule also protects against pride. Achievements feel less permanent when time is remembered. Recognition fades, titles disappear, only character remains. This understanding keeps ambition in balance. You work hard without becoming consumed by outcomes. Limited time demands honest living. There is less room for pretending, less room for living according to others' expectations. You become more willing to live according to your values because delay feels costly. You act now instead of waiting for permission or perfect timing. Remembering time is limited also strengthens forgiveness. Holding grudges becomes less appealing when you see how much energy they consume. Forgiveness becomes a practical choice, not a moral performance. You release resentment to free your remaining time. This awareness encourages preparation. You care more about how you live than how long you live. You focus on leaving each day complete, not perfect. You do what can be done now, knowing that tomorrow is uncertain. The Stoic practice is not to obsess over death, but to let its certainty guide life. This guidance simplifies choices. When faced with temptation or distraction, you ask whether this deserves your limited time. Often, the answer is clear. Time's limit also reduces regret. When you act with awareness, you are less likely to look back, wishing you had lived differently. Even mistakes become lessons rather than sources of shame. To remember that time is limited is to live awake. It is to treat each day as a complete unit of life. It is to act with intention, restraint, and appreciation, guided by the knowledge that this moment is all that truly belongs to you.